How is peace made? Is it simply the absence of strife? Is it learning to get along? Is it tolerance? Is it living and let living? How do you make peace? How do you live in a place where there is no chaos, where everything is at rest? Is it just simply getting along and making sure that as long as nobody gets hurt, then everything's okay? How do we make peace? You see, peace was a marker of Jesus' ministry. Peace was central and integral to the life of Jesus and to what he was trying to do. Even John the Baptist, who was the precursor or the one who would pave the way for Jesus, they said this, that his role was to guide our feet into the way of peace. That's in Luke chapter 1. John the Baptist's role was to guide the people of Israel's feet into the way of peace. Then months later, when Jesus the Messiah was born, we have the angels singing, an angelic host singing peace on earth and favor, peace on earth to those on whom God's favor rests. This idea of peace coming on earth being integral to the life and the ministry of Jesus. So what's peace to you? I want you to think about peaceful moments in your own life. I mean, those of you with little kids, I can answer, I know exactly what peace means for you, but what does it look like? Is peace an environment? Is it a place? Is peace for you a type of music? Is it a certain sweet? Or is it something that happens to you in an auditory way? What is peace for you? If you were to describe it, or if you were to talk about a time where you felt most peaceful, where was it and what was going on? Because one thing is true: peace cannot be kept, peace can only be made. I'll say that again. Peace cannot be kept. Peace can only be made. Because when you think about it, we think about it in terms of quote unquote keeping the peace. What's really happening when somebody's keeping the peace? All we're doing is pushing conflict aside, ignoring obvious conflict in order to maintain a facade or the appearance of peace. Peace cannot be kept. There is no such thing as a true peacekeeper. You can only make it. Peace can only be made. That is, in fact, why Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, "Blessed are the peacemakers." And so if John the Baptist came to guide our feet in the way of peace, Jesus came and the angels declared peace on earth to those on whom God's favor rests. That's got to ask us this. We've got to ask this question: well, what does it mean? On whom does God's favor rest, and on whom is God pleased? That brings us to our passage, our text for today. And we read in Luke chapter 19, the triumphal entry on this day we celebrate, which is Palm Sunday. We read as the praises of God are ringing in Jesus' ears as he draws near to the city of Jerusalem. After they've declared of him, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven," they say, "and glory in the highest." And so there is this rapturous applause, this great praise of God as Jesus the King enters into Jerusalem. And then in Luke chapter 19, verse 41, he says this: "When he drew near and saw the city," that is, when he saw the city of Jerusalem, "he wept over it, saying, 'Would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace. But now they are hidden from your eyes, for the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you, surround you and hem you in on every side, and tear you down to the ground, you and your children within you, and they will not leave one stone upon another in you, because you did not know the time of your visitation.'" That phrase there, "Oh, that you, even you, would have known the things that make for peace." The title of this message today is exactly that: the things that make for peace. What is it in our lives that make for peace? What is it that the Israelites should have known? What is it that they did not know? The things that make for peace. What is it that brings peace into our lives? What is it? Is there a way that we can live in this place of peace and live in this place continually? I wanted us to notice a couple of things about this passage. The first is this: the disparity between the sound of the crowd and what was going on inside of Jesus' heart. You see, as he makes his approach up over the Mount of Olives toward Jerusalem, he looks down and sees the city. The entire crowd are opening in praise to God. So think about the angels in Jesus' birth as the heavenly host opens up and they declare, "Glory to God, peace on earth to whom God's favor rests." In the same kind of way, not in the week of Jesus' birth, but now in the week of Jesus' death, we have another crowd singing, and they're singing the same kinds of thing. "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven this time," not peace on earth, but peace in heaven this time, "and glory in the highest." And now there is this huge contrast between the sound of the crowd declaring the praises of God and Jesus, with that sound ringing in his ears, he weeps, he breaks down as he sees the city. I want us to notice sometimes the contrast between the sound of the crowd and actually what's going on in God's heart. I want you to notice another thing, that the city of Jerusalem the name of that city is the city of peace. Salem, which means shalom, which is peace in the Hebrew. So it's the city of peace. And Jesus says to them, "Oh, that you would have known the things that make for peace." There is a contrast between the name of the city and the experience of the city. We know the difference there. Sometimes we don't live up to our name, or there is something is named a thing, but then the experience of it is completely different. In this instance, I want you to notice that Jesus himself says, even though the people are saying peace in heaven, peace in heaven, peace in heaven, Jesus walks over to see the city of peace, and yet there is no peace in the city. There is no peace in the city of peace. So what are the things that make for peace, and why was there no peace in that city? Well, the first one was this city was in complete political upheaval and turmoil. They were occupied by the Romans. There was a interplay between the Jewish leaders and their Roman captors. There was political upheaval in that place. People were being put to death. There was incredible insurgencies that would rise up. There was turmoil and chaos in the city. Not only was there chaos and political upheaval, but there was social power destruction going on. There was social elitism in the city, where those who were in power would oppress and would lord it over those who were on the underside of that power. There was a complete power imbalance in the city, and those with money and those with power and those in the know would completely lord it over those who weren't. There was a huge disparity in the city about those who had and those who had not. And not only that, in the city also there was religious platitudes, or a sense of religious comfortability in the city, where those who felt like they followed the law of Moses and those who were inside of what was known then as the family of God were relaxed, comfortable, and unable to get out of that and live with passion for the true and living God. There was a sense of religious platitude, a going through the motions, a sense of moving in and moving out, doing the feasts and the festivals and obeying the law, but only the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. There was a religious platitude about the day. People would talk the talk, but not walk the walk. And because of these things, because of what was going on politically, because of what was going on socially, and because of what was going on even in the faith communities, there was no peace in that city of peace. So when Jesus weeps over this city and says to them, "Oh, that you, even you, would have known on this day the things that make for peace," the question that we need to ask ourselves today is, what are those things? What are those things that make for peace? What are those things that if we build them into our lives would actually be lives that make peace rather than just keep peace? What are those things? Well, the first thing is in line with what the people were singing about Jesus, peace in heaven. You know, there is a sense to which we can only receive peace in our lives if we have peace with God. There is in each one of us this a sense of unrest, a sense of struggle, a sense of trial, a sense of things not sitting quite right until we've made things right with God. The great news about this as we head towards Easter is that the message of Jesus is that we have been reconciled to God. We're no longer strangers and aliens. We're no longer separate from Him. We're no longer aside from Him, but He's brought us near by the blood of Christ. And so at Easter time, as we head towards Easter, we celebrate this great fact again that you and I can be reconciled to God, that you and I can have peace with God, that His favor can indeed rest on us, that He is indeed pleased with us because of what Jesus has done. Because of the way of His sacrifice for us, we can have peace with God. So as you leave this place, as you come out of this message today, you can come out knowing with faith in Jesus and the grace that He's provided, you can have peace with Him. It is available to you. It is accessible to you because of what He's done. And that gives us peace with heaven. But what about peace on earth? What about peace on earth? How can we live at peace in this world when there's so much going on, when it feels like there's so much chaos around us? You know, you might have peace with God and you might feel like there is no longer enmity between you and God, and the effects of sin and the effects of death and the effects of the devil are no longer have any sway over your life. But what about our relationships? What about the relationships with our enemies? What about relationships with those that we don't see eye to eye on? What about those relationships with those in our neighborhood, in our community, in our extended community right around the world? How do we have peace on earth? Well, in the same way as Jesus is our sacrifice making peace with heaven, He's also our example so that we can make peace on earth. Jesus came in humility. He came to serve and not to be served. He came to love and not to be loved. He came to give mercy, not just to be shown mercy. And in the same way as He is our sacrifice, making peace with heaven, He is also our example so that we can make peace on earth. Can we come to our relationships with humility? Can we come following His example as well as accessing His sacrifice? Can we come making peace on earth as well as accessing peace in heaven? And then thirdly, if we have peace with heaven and we have peace with earth, there's one piece missing, and that is peace with ourselves. Because there can be peace with heaven and you might be able to say, yes, I receive Jesus. I thank Him for His sacrifice. I live at peace with God. And yes, I seek to serve my world in humility, following after Jesus' example, loving others, doing unto others as I would have them do unto me, loving God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then loving others as well. But still, I'm not at peace in my own heart. I'm not at peace with myself. I dislike myself. I don't love myself. And I'll tell you this, peace with yourself only comes when you find yourself inside of God's story, when you cease to become the hero of your own narrative. When we cease becoming the hero of our own narrative, all of a sudden things don't rest on us, and you can and I can know peace in our own life. We can become at peace with ourselves because we know that it all doesn't depend on us. It's much better to play a supporting role in the story of God than play the lead role in the story of yourself. So we can have peace with heaven, we can have peace with earth, and we can even have peace with ourselves. And so as we bring this message to a close, as we think about the things that make for peace, I want to give 5 small things that I think we can do today. 5 things that we can do right now that make for peace inside of our lives. And the first one is this: be reconciled to God. If you want to know the things that make for peace, if we want to know who are those with whom God's favor rests, on whom He is well pleased, be reconciled to God. Don't do anything else. Right now, in this moment, before we even leave, before you click off the TV or your computer or your phone or whatever it is, be reconciled to God. Come back to God right now. Come to Him in this moment and say, Father, I come to you to give my life over to you again, to surrender myself in faith and love and humility to you again today. I want to thank you that you've made a way where there was no way. I want to thank you that you've defeated sin, you've defeated death, you've defeated the attacks of the enemy, and I can be reconciled to you. Where there has been chaos, where there has been war, let there now be peace. Be reconciled to God today. That's the first thing that you can do. That's the thing that makes for peace. So the people of Jerusalem who lived in the city of peace failed to recognize that a king was amongst them. They were with him in talk, but they weren't with him in spirit. They did not recognize the day of their visitation. That was Jesus' words. And so as he describes what was going to happen in AD 60, where Rome would besiege the city of Jerusalem and they would set up ramps and try and starve them out, which is exactly what happened. Jesus wept over the future of that city because they did not know the things that made for peace, and they did not recognize the day of their visitation. Don't go another day without recognizing it, my friends. Be reconciled to God. The second thing is this: we want to trust Him in the process. So firstly, be reconciled to God. Second, trust Him in the process. Making peace is not easy work. In the world of chaos that we live in, bringing peace and bringing order out of chaos is hard work. It's life's work. It's a difficult work, and part of that is trusting God in the process. Part of that is not taking matters into our own hands. Part of that is not seeking revenge, not seeking restitution, but following God and trusting Him in the process, particularly trusting Him with the lives of others. Thirdly, practice humility and restraint, particularly in the use of your tongue. See, I can tell you one of the ways to start a fire, one of the ways to start chaos, one of the ways to not live in peace is just to use your tongue, to not practice restraint with the use of your tongue, to talk about people, to talk about situations, to complain, to murmur, to grumble, to criticize. All of those things do not make for peace. All of those things, when you put them all together, create chaos, they create gossip, they create slander, they create insult, they create accusation, and all of those things do not make for peace. And yet, when we show restraint, when we come back with humility, and we use our tongues to build up, to encourage, to seek wisdom, in those places, they are the things that make for peace. Practice restraint, especially when it comes to the use of your tongue. Be reconciled to God. Trust Him in the process. Practice restraint, especially when it comes to the tongue. And fourthly, deal with misunderstandings. Be the first to apologize and be fast to forgive. Be the first to apologize and be fast to forgive. You want to know the things that make for peace? That's what makes for peace. Keeping the peace is simply ignoring problems when they're there. But if we're able to acknowledge misunderstandings, be the first to apologize and be fast to forgive, those are the things that make for peace. Who do you need to be the first to apologize to today? And what parts of your life have you been slow to forgive? Because I guarantee you this, if you're the first to apologize and you're fast to forgive, you will see the peace in your life go to a whole new level. Why? Because you're not allowing the chaos or the disorder or the disharmony to rule over your own heart and over your own mind. Be the first to apologize and be fast to forgive. And then finally and fifthly, this is the last thing in the terms of the things that make for peace, seek wisdom in decision making. How much of the lack of peace in your life is because you made hasty decisions, because you jumped to conclusions, or you jumped the gun, or you didn't seek out wisdom? How much of the discord in our own lives is because of the decisions that we made separate to wisdom? I want to encourage you to seek wisdom in your decisions. Seek wisdom in the way that you live. Seek godly counsel. Read the word, allow God to speak to you by His Spirit in prayer. Come to Him and seek wisdom in the way that you make decisions, and your life of peace will increase. All of this is because we need to come back to God and be reconciled to Him. He has made a way for there to be peace in heaven and peace on earth. He's made a way for us to be at peace with ourselves, and these are the things that make for peace. We would do well to heed Jesus' warning on this day. We would do well to see sometimes the noise and the chaos of the world to listen to Jesus' heart today as He weeps over the city of Jerusalem, as He weeps over us, longing that we would know the things that make for peace on this Palm Sunday. And I pray, as 1 week from Easter, as we move our way, continue into the Easter story, that you and I would know peace, we would know it deep in our own hearts, and we would know the things that make for peace in our world with the people around us. In Jesus' name, amen.